Hello and welcome to another coaching session from LeadershipMentor.com. Today I want to share some thoughts with you about dealing with perceptions. I think one of the challenges that we have is we often have to sit down and think about how is it that your people see you as a leader? How do they perceive you? And something I learned a long time ago, really painfully actually, is there's always a divergence between our intentions as leaders and how we feel we're leading our team versus the reality and how it's being received and perceived by our team members. And so that's really what I want to talk to you about today is really that core idea. One of the challenges that you have is very challenging to get real feedback. And what I mean by that is if you give your team a survey or in a one-on-one session you have with them, if you start asking questions, it's fairly unlikely that you're going to get honest feedback. Now, I always had one or two people that I felt pretty comfortable going to, and they were bold enough and comfortable enough with our relationship that they would tell me straight up if they felt like I was doing something that was a little bit off base, or they had some concerns, or they heard concerns from other team members. So it's a challenge for us to get this real honest feedback, and that's one of the things that I think we need to do first and foremost is to be able to set a baseline on how are our team members perceiving us versus our intentions and how we're trying to lead. So how do you get accurate feedback? Well, we started a 360 survey in a call center I worked in quite a while ago. And it was phenomenal the amount of feedback that you get and how honest it is. And you put that all together and it is really a powerful tool to start setting up training and to attempt to, make improvements in those areas. So what is a 360 survey? Well, a 360 survey is basically about anywhere from 5 to 10 basic questions, and I'll give you some examples of those in a minute. And what you want to do is you want to provide this to your team members and your peers as well as your manager, and you want to provide them with these questions and have them score each question from 1 to 5, or you can do 1 to 10. So then you would simply average each question and then provide an overall average as well. It's really important that we protect the identities when sharing the results, and so there's no names. Preferably it's something that can be typed in so you can't even tell by handwriting, and that's one of the challenges. If you're a leader that's not doing a very good job and your team members really don't have a lot of trust, they're going to be pretty suspicious basically as to who's going to find out about my feedback and things like that. So it's important that you do this, and there's some online options that actually go out to another organization and they compile this data based on your ID and they send it back to you, which is probably the best result if you can afford to do that. And then you want to conduct this same survey probably every 3 to 6 months. I personally like every 3 months. And we do that because we want to, hopefully it's the same set of people, and we can start to gauge how our score improves or doesn't improve, and we can then kind of baseline our improvement as leaders. And then obviously, as I mentioned, we want to include peers and your direct manager as well in that. We also want to include some type of training on how to accept feedback. One of the challenges when you get your very first survey back and you're getting this honest feedback from your team members is denial, and I saw that so often, not only from myself but from other supervisors when we would do this. And that's one of the challenges, is not to be defensive. You have to learn to accept this feedback because that's what perception is all about. It's their perception of how you're doing. So you can't argue with perception. And so it's important that you do some type of coaching or training with the people that are going to be receiving this feedback so that they can do it effectively and then move to improve rather than simply, stay in that denial stage. So I just want to share with you real quick some examples of some questions that I've used. I feel well supported by my manager. And again, these are just simple questions that as a subordinate or a team member I would just rate from 1 to 5. Do I feel supported by my manager? I feel my manager listens to me. My manager acts quickly when I have issues. My manager is fair with all team members. My manager is a good role model for the team. My manager usually makes the right decisions. So that's really it on the 360 survey, a pretty simple concept. If you email me through our support desk, I can give you 8 to 10 actual questions that I've used in the past. But I hope you find that helpful, the whole idea of perceptions, and a great way to attack those perceptions that your team members have, identifying those and then hopefully improving them, is through a 360 survey. I hope you found that helpful, and I hope you have a great day.